What's going on, guys? SeanEDawgz here, and there was a new update today for Call of Duty Black Ops 4, and they made some pretty big changes across all three game modes, so I'm going to be going over ones that are really going to affect the way that you play the game, that you'll want to know exactly what was changed, so that you can make the appropriate changes in your playstyle. It's clear that the team at Treyarch is working very hard to make sure that the game is up to par, that it meets all of our standards, because if you've been dumping hundreds upon hundreds of hours into this game like I have, you probably have noticed that there are some things that are a little bit off about the game, from simple things to your creator class slots not working once you prestige, the new ones that you unlock, to bigger issues like getting under the map in Morocco. There were some clear oversights. Maybe this game wasn't exactly ready for the time that they released. They are still working on things. And what I believe is happening now, because they had an update yesterday, they had one today, and I wouldn't even be surprised if they had one tomorrow, is that they are working as fast as they can to fix all of the problems that the game is having. And they're trying to push out so many updates that ones are being cleared before others to actually be able to go live. And that's why things are just happening sporadically. There's no real pattern to it. They're just going live with whatever changes they can as soon as they can. So just to recap very quickly, because it will take 5 seconds, the update that they had yesterday, there really weren't any major changes. It was just fixing a couple UI errors, some things that made zombies crash, the progression rate, how fast you can progress through the tiers, because it was a little slow. Nothing really too drastic that would change the way you play the game. And looking at the changes they made for this update today, they don't seem to be huge drastic changes, but they're definitely bigger than the ones yesterday. So this leads me to believe that the things that are getting through first are obviously the smaller changes. So that's why I said don't be surprised if you see some huge changes coming later down the road, like maybe an update as early as tomorrow or even 2 days from now. So I'm going to start with all of the changes that they've made in multiplayer and move on to the other modes. I'm not going to mention things that will have literally no impact on the game, but I will mention everything else. And if you do want to see all of the patch notes, I will leave a link to them down below in the description. To begin with, that issue that I mentioned where when you prestige and you unlock a new custom class slot, that those new slots are not functioning properly. Thankfully, they are aware of this issue. However, they were not able to fix it yet and said that they will have a fix in an upcoming update. Now, these are the important ones that you really want to pay attention to. So what they did to Scorestreaks, they increased the Thresher's fire rate and projectile speed. The Thresher, it's like the Warthog from past Call of Duties. It makes those like 7 runs back and forth. It bombs the whole map basically for an extended period of time. And they have also increased the Sniper Nest Scorestreaks fire rate and duration. Now, the reasoning behind this, all of these 3 streaks, the Sniper Nest, the Attack Chopper, and the Thresher, they're all within 200 points of each other. So they're trying to make them all competitive with each other. So it's more of just a choice of which one you prefer, rather than what's been happening, or at least what I've seen in my own experience, where everyone just runs the Attack Chopper because it's much better than any of those other streaks around it. The next pretty big change, the exact wording is, they slightly reduced the acoustic sensor's detection range. So I'll have to use it a little bit more now that this update is live to see just how much they changed the acoustic sensor, because I do actually use that quite a bit, and if they nerfed it to a point where I would rather have stim shot, then there's no point of using it anymore. So it could possibly have an impact on how I play the game. And the last thing is another thing that I mentioned earlier in the video. They patched that exploit where you could get under Morocco. I don't know how these things get through, that you could just, get through maps. I would think they would have kill zones pretty much everywhere outside the playable area. That's not always the case. And the last thing that they changed within the multiplayer is something that I wouldn't really know of because I haven't used any of these weapon variants really. They resolved an issue where reactive camos were not appearing correctly in creative class, and they also updated the unlock requirement text for the MX9 reactive camo. So I haven't really used those. I can't say from experience what exactly that means. I'm sure they just made what you have to do to get the camo a lot more clear. But that wraps it up for the multiplayer changes. They have also said that they are aware some challenges within the multiplayer are not tracking properly, and they're addressing it with this update. However, they're not fixing it, similar to the create a class issue that they still have. They know that it's there. It's going to be fixed in an upcoming update. They just can't do anything about it right now. Now, moving on to Blackout, this is where the major changes take place because of what exactly was changed. So they reduced the inventory stack size for both the 9-bang and the cluster grenade, which I believe are like the two most valuable, the two most powerful pieces of equipment within Blackout, down to 1. You could have stacked them in stacks of 2 before. Now it is down to 1. So they're going to take up more inventory. You might want to think about how many you're carrying. You can't stack 29 bangs in your inventory. That's no longer a thing. And they have increased the charge time for the 9-bang as well. Keep in mind, this does not affect how the 9-bang works in multiplayer at all. If you're running around as Ajax throwing 9-bangs in multiplayer, you could throw it right in front of you. It still will not flash yourself if you're the one using the 9-bang. However, in Blackout, I have seen it in action. It does actually take quite a bit to charge. Like, you would think you throw it and it's gonna blow up before it even hits the ground. Not anymore. They've changed it to what seems to be a 1.5 second fuse time as opposed to the 0.5 that it was earlier. Keep in mind that this is an estimate. It's difficult to test exact stats within Blackout because there are no private matches that you can enter, but it is significantly longer for the flashbang or the 9-bang to explode than it was before. Once you throw your first one after this new update that's already out, you'll see what I mean. Like, you're gonna have to play around that differently than you had beforehand. And my mistake, I had said charge time for the 9-bang when what I really meant was the detonation time, how long it takes to explode after you throw it. But the reason I got that mixed up is they also increased the charge time as well. So they increased the time that it takes to charge it up, all 3 of those bars, as well as the time that it's gonna take to detonate once it leaves your hand. So that's trying to nerf it. However, it still has the same effect. It's not like it's going to stun you less than it did before. So I don't know how I think about this update. It's not really nerfing the 9-bang. It's just slightly changing the way that you have to throw it at people. Don't worry, if you're one of the corner camping scrubs with SG-12s that doesn't move the entire game with your level 3 armor, the 9-bang is still OP. You're still going to win games without any gun skill whatsoever within Blackout. You just gotta camp, have some 9-bangs in your inventory, some level 3 armor, some shotguns, and you're good to go. And the last thing that they changed was the duration that the Dead Silence perk is active. They said that they matched it to the awareness perks, which allows you to hear footsteps louder. Dead Silence obviously makes your footsteps silent. So they now made them the same exact length. They both last for 120 seconds or 2 minutes. I'm not entirely sure how long Dead Silence lasted beforehand, but I remember from reading all the perk descriptions that all of them lasted between those 2 and 4 minutes. So it had either lasted for like 3 or 4 minutes before. Now Dead Silence only lasts for 2. So when you compare the changes that they made to both multiplayer and Blackout, the ones that they made for multiplayer weren't really that big because they were based mostly on equipment and score streaks, where most of the gameplay is going to take place with your gun. However, in Blackout, those ones that they changed are pretty big because a lot of the encounters that you'll be facing late games, the ones that you need to win towards the end of the game, that's going to be pretty much based on your equipment and your perks in addition to your gun skill. So those are going to have a pretty big impact on how you play the game. Pause, name a YouTuber that puts as much effort into his videos that says impact as he gets a triple kill with a grab slam. I'll wait. Trick question, SeanEDawgz is the only correct answer. But be prepared for a slew of updates in these coming weeks. The game is not going to be quote-unquote finished for at least another couple of weeks, probably around a month, because if the last Call of Duties are any indication, these games come out pretty much unfinished. I don't know why it happens. They have 3 years to make the game. That's just how it works. So we got to bear with them for a second. They're going to keep making changes to the gameplay. You're probably wondering, he hasn't said anything about zombies yet. Well, unfortunately, if you play a lot of zombies, you've probably been experiencing a lot of crashes. The only zombies game that I played, got in one, it crashed. All they left us was a little note. So they did fix as many of those game crash errors, things that were causing them, as they could. But they then wrote at the bottom of this long patch notes list, we know there are still some particularly tricky types of crashes still out there, and we're dedicated to squashing the rest of them soon. Keep an eye on our bulleted notes with each game update, as stability improvements across all modes often includes various crash fixes in zombies. Thanks you for your patience. We will continue to nail these down. And that's all I got for you guys today. If you want to keep up to date with the latest and greatest when it comes to Call of Duty, I got you guys covered. Make sure to subscribe. Comment down below with any thoughts or questions you may have. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.